Ugh, ugh. All right, the first thing I'm going to say right now. Um, do you guys know the word ridiculous? Ugh, ugh. I want to talk to you about the word ridiculous because it's one of the most interesting words that are out there. Uh, I want to make a serious examination of human absurdity today, especially um, especially because it's one of the most powerful forces in human history. Um, the real engine of civilization is actually ridiculousness. I don't know if you know that. Uh, Humanity runs on absurdity the way that cars run on gasoline. And if we ever became rational, the entire global economy would actually collapse overnight. Collapse. Why? Hello, Elon Musk. Whoever thought that a self driving car could actually self drive itself? Well, not the first person who crashed in it, definitely. um, there is ridiculousness. It's really ridiculousness in everything. One of the things that I just saw, for example, Woodland Park, New Jersey. Woodland Park, New Jersey, aka Privet Drive. If you guys go down this road, you're going to find that all the houses look exactly like Harry Potter's. It's kind of funny. Like, why shouldn't I say that? If you look closely enough, everything is a comedy disguised as a tragedy, disguised as a PowerPoint presentation, not actual tragedy. Because things like Charlie Kirk dying, that's not comedy, and you know it's not ridiculous. It's tragic, just tragic, but also empowering. You know, because when people like Charlie Kirk die, it means that people like me have a purpose other than just sitting down out here talking about ridiculous humanness behavior. Humans are ridiculous by design. Did you know that? Well, it's not really our fault. No, I'm sorry. It's not really God's fault. So, not really by original design, but by the devil's design. Yeah, because we argue with strangers online. We believe rumors faster than facts. We trust people who speak confidently even when they're wrong. I don't want to hear this name again. Okay. We panic over things that don't matter. We ignore things that do and create problems just to feel alive. Does anybody read the word Satan in all of those points? Because in every bullet that the Juice Lab just gave me, I came up with at least one or two words that meant Satan. Argue, rumors, wrong, panic, don't matter. Well, don't matter is actually sometimes. Anyway, ignore things that matter. Create problems just to feel alive. I hear Satan in all of that. And also in this. We invented jealousy, bureaucracy, reality TV, and the phrase per my last email. I want to know who wrote that one. Okay, so reality TV is probably one of the best one out of those. But I can also hear the devil in some of this. Not per my last email because I use that a lot. But no, actually, I never use that exact phrasing. Only if I want to be ridiculously smart sounding, but you don't need to do that to sound smart. You just need to be smart to be smart. Uh huh. Uh huh. We are the only species that will walk into a room, forget why we're there, and then blame the room. You were here. And then you storm out. The door opens and the room goes like, what in the world is that? And then it closes back up. We are ridiculous and we're proud of it. The ridiculousness of institutions goes 10 to 17 minutes like this. Institutions are where ridiculousness goes to get a salary. Let's talk about government a little. And gosh, I the Jews Lab can't give me enough on that one. I I have dealt with government myself, like in many aspects, especially the fact that I'm being, helped a little by the government, right? Because I'm unable to fully go to work right now. I have a home office and I have a desk and I try to write here, but because of ridiculousness, like people being jealous or envious of me, and people who wanted to control whole populations, and things like gender-based uh, crime, or and military veterans, and even military people who work in the military right now, and people who think that they can manipulate the world through magic and get everything they want and then go to heaven too, because they're going to get nirvana or whatever. Ridiculousness. That's the reason why I can't go out to, I don't know, Burger King and ask for a job right now, because I can't sit down and do my work. Or I can't even walk around a restaurant and do my work because I spit all the time. Yeah, Job kind of. You guys know the story of Job. There's a part in the book of Job where it says that he spat, that he spent his quite a bit of time spitting, and it was part of the demonic oppressions he was going through. Did you know that that was happening to him? Job is one of the characters who survives demonic oppression right before our eyes. We see everything that's happening to him, what he's saying to God, what people are saying to him, how they're criticizing him for being a sinner, somebody who hates, who God hates, etc., etc. And all the while he's going through demonic oppressions. It says so in the Bible that there were voices that were talking to him, saying things to him and stuff. So you think that a person who hears voices is a what? A schizo? Nah, man. Those are demons. There are people who have PTSD, and PTSD can cause something called psychosis, and psychosis can possibly make you, you know, see things, hear things that aren't there. But it comes from a place of knowledge, not from a place of ridiculousness. It comes from a place where knowledge that you already have is turned into something, not things that you don't know suddenly start appearing in front of you. That's not schizophrenia. That's something else. Because yeah, it needs to come out of somewhere. Um, it does, and I think I've tested that. Um, Anyway, government. Governments are basically group projects where nobody agrees, everyone thinks they're in charge, and half the participants didn't read the assignment. They create committees to study committees, reports nobody reads, laws nobody understands, and slogans nobody believes. Governments are the only place where you can spend $10 million dollars to solve a problem that cost $500 to create. Let me explain this. It doesn't mean that all of government is like this, or that all governments are like that. This is a very general, funny uh, take on the faults of life. Okay, there are some things in government that work. You know, like for example, I get my SSI check every month, no matter what my perps want. I get my SSI check every month. Whether there's somebody out there cloning my card number so that they can, or using my account numbers in some way that they can appear to have, money in their own card, I don't know how that works. I don't. My card is government issued. It's not from a regular bank. So, you know I'm not understanding. Okay. um But like I'm saying, there are things that are very difficult to understand from government. For example, I've been to government sponsored hospitals, and you don't get care there. You get people screaming at you. You get people cursing behind the desk, staff, um, and they curse at you and they curse at each other, and it's like they're at a bar. They're getting paid to sit down behind a desk like they're at home on in their PJs watching Netflix and talking to their husband, or their kids or something like that. It's terrible. I was actually recently hospitalized, and I was having some trouble with digestion, and I was being rushed to finish my meals in 30 minutes, and I'm like, I'm sorry, um, but the issue that you have with me is that I'm unable to, you know, uh, eat the way you do. So why are you rushing me to eat? You have to give me time. The problem is not that I don't want to eat, that I, that I'm medically unable to eat. It's a spiritual thing. And you don't want to believe that. I get that. But if you want me to eat, you need to give me the time to do that. Because in my, in the religious aspect of what I'm going through, which is the only aspect that this is about, I am unable to eat all my meal in 30 minutes. I have to wait until God tells me when I can eat. It's like fasting, you know? But I was kept they almost put me through court for my religious beliefs. In that sense, they said I was too religiously preoccupied, and that's why I couldn't eat. I'm like, I'm sorry. I am not going to ingest anything that's going to make me spiritually ill because you want to fulfill a textbook's fetish. I'm sorry, but I cannot do that to myself. And if that means that I'm going to have to stay here 30 or 40 days, I'm going to have to do it. But thanks to the good Lord, He put somebody there who knew what He was doing. That's all. Well, he knew what God knew what He was doing, and the doctor knew what he was doing. He was smarter than the rest. That's all. But they did try to push that on me because they did not have any other way to maneuver through the reason that my the person who put me in the hospital put me there. They ended up saying, "Oh no, you're too religiously preoccupied." I my business is based on religion. I'm a street prophet. What am I supposed to do? Talk to people about McDonald's fries? What am I supposed to be fixed on? What is my what am I supposed to be preoccupied with if not God? And what's the problem with my being preoccupied with God all the time? How is that mentally ill? I don't understand. So yeah, governments are ridiculous. And the people who work for government turn ridiculous too. It's not all people or all counselors or psychologists who you would tell them, I am a victim of ritual abuse. And unfortunately, there are times where I cannot sit down on any chair. Why? Because I have spirits that are trying to sit on that chair and hurt me. And there is a counselor out there who understands what ritual abuse is, and he will say, I understand what you're saying. And there are others that say, that's interesting. Tell me more about it. Because they understand that there are things that they don't know, that there are, experiences that they cannot qualify or quantify with a textbook. So, governments are sometimes very ridiculous, and sometimes people who work for government become ridiculous because of it somehow. And this I saw a lot of in Puerto Rico, unfortunately. And I don't understand why our culture is like that. But in Puerto Rico, we have a lot of committees to study committees, reports nobody reads, laws nobody understands, and slogans nobody believes. And that is a cultural thing. It's a cultural thing out of poverty. And it's very strange that that happens because being poor doesn't mean that you have to be uneducated. It doesn't mean that you have to, let go of the rules. Being poor just means you don't have a lot of money, you know, and and that doesn't have to make you stupid. So what is it that's behind all of this? It's all very very interesting. It's socially we can talk about it all day, but I don't want to go too much into it because I want to go on to the next point. But definitely, there are some things in government that need to change so that the reports get read, you know, so that people can get the services they need, and so that we stop overspending on them, especially on those pens that, every time that somebody comes into the office, they take a pen and they take it with them. It's okay to say, you can leave the pen. Thank you. It's okay, you know, and it's okay to tell the person, bring my pen back, please, because I'm going to need that later. It's okay to do that. Sometimes you end up with like 20 pens in your house because you work at an office, and the office gives you the pens, right? And if it's a government office, like a school, for example, right? Then you go home with a pen every day because you mistakenly or purposefully you put it in there because you want to use it later, right? And then when you get home, you empty your bag, you have 20 pens in there, and you're like, oh, I brought all the pens from work. Ha ha ha! All the pens that I used the entire week. I brought them all. Silly me. But the problem is not that you took them all either on purpose or not. The problem is you didn't put them back. You left them either at home in a drawer because you never use pens at home. You text, or you use, markers for the little fridge thingamagig. You know what I'm talking about, the thingamagig. And you don't even have, a calendar you write in a planner because you have your phone, or your computer, or Alexa is telling you what to do. We really don't need pens all that much anymore, guys. Truly, truly, we're overspending on this like crazy. But that one person who has the 20 pens in their house is not just, creating a deficit at work. They're also throwing those pens away at some point because they don't use them. What are all those pens doing here, honey? Oh, I don't know. Well, they're cluttering. Then throw them away. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah. Okay. Corporations. Corporations are temples of ridiculousness. They hold meetings to plan meetings. They send emails to clarify emails. They create innovation departments that innovate nothing. And they love buzzwords. Synergy, optimization, alignment, leveraging cross functional paradigms, which is corporate for we have no idea what we're doing, but we're doing it loudly. Anybody out there who works at a company that sounds like that? Like, I don't know, YouTube? Or maybe they're more orderly. Because I mean, YouTube works great. But I got one. Meta. Facebook. You guys, I know you got a lot of pens at your house. Uh-huh. You guys are doing no work at all. I am so into that. Not into it, but I'm into the fact that you did it. I know that you did. I know that's who you are. I know that's what you do. I don't know why Zuckerberg has so much money, because Facebook is one of the worst social platforms ever. In fact, there are no social platforms right now that I like, period, except for nothing. I don't like any social platforms. All I use are platforms where I can talk to myself. It's funny, huh? Well, YouTube is okay, like I said. They're working fine. But Facebook doesn't know your identity, and they ask you to go into their app to verify your identity. And when you go into the app, you downloaded the thing that you didn't want to download on your phone because you're a victim of electronic harassment, and you don't want to deal with this. But it's asking you to do it, and this is part of your business. So you're trying to, do the thing, even if just for a minute. So you say to yourself, I'm going to download it and then I'm going to delete it. And, so you download the thing, and you go into it and you log on, and, they should have already seen that you logged on from your device. But that's not all they want. To be able to post anything, you have to now download a business suite, which you didn't have to do before. And I'm like, this is a page. It's not, What is going on? Okay, fine. You downloaded the other thing that you didn't want to download because of the same reason, and you used it. You used it. So why are you still telling me that I can't post anything on my computers? Why can't I go on a computer and post on my Facebook page? Because you still don't understand who I am. I don't understand. You're not Facebook is one of the worst social platforms ever. And bonus, when you go on Facebook dating, you can't have, an anonymous name, which is very dangerous, I think. Especially for people who don't want anybody to know who they are. Uh, it's you know, it's it's on a dating site. You don't want to upfront tell everybody who you are. You don't know who these people are. You don't know what they're doing with their Facebook. You don't know if they've been on their Facebook for 20 years as predators, as child molesters, as pornography sellers. You don't know what they are. You don't know if they're traffickers. So I don't want. So I went on Facebook dating just for fun. I said, I'm going to see what this is. So I went and I clicked on it, and it was telling me, that I couldn't change my name. I was like, well, then I can't do anything on this, because if I don't change my name, everybody's going to know who I am, and that's exposing uh my name. It's exposing my job title. It's exposing everything I do, and I can't do that. So I wasn't looking for a date. I just wanted to see how it worked, and well, it wasn't. It was ridiculous, basically. Um, Facebook dating should probably not exist. Now, academia. I could probably go on about corporations all day, but since I don't know any, like, I can't take a jab at any corporation specifically. Um, you know, uh, Golden Corral is doing their job. I know that. It's the people who come into Golden or try to go into Golden Corral illegally that should not go. Um, and yeah, people who are stalking people who like to go to Golden Corral on a habitual basis, and not just Golden Corral, other restaurants. If you have like a coffee shop, you probably see a lot of people who go there habitually. You have your regulars, and that happens at buffets too, whether you know it or not. Locals sometimes they like to go with their, little old people. They come out on a Sunday and they go eat, stuff like that. And the place where they go to eat is, I don't know. Yeah. So So you got people now stalking those people. With they stay outside, they have their computers, they're trying to hack into every mainframe they can, into every signal they can, into every phone they can. Oh yeah, Florida, it's plagued. Um, so anyway, we'll talk about corporations a little better later. Academia. Academia is where brilliant people go to argue about things nobody else cares about. Professors will spend 20 years researching a topic that three people on Earth understand, and two of them are asleep. Yes, right now, and tomorrow. Academia invented jargon, peer review wars, and the belief that writing longer sentences make you smarter. Ridiculous. And I'm not talking J.K. Rowling ridiculous, because J.K. Rowling wrote ridiculous with a K, and I don't like that, because that in itself is ridiculous. So, you have to call ridiculousness what it is, with a C. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Not ridiculous, right? Because that's what it reads like when you say it with a K. Ridic. Ridic. I mean, she should know. She studied languages. Ridic. Or is it ridiculous? Ridiculous? It just changes the whole thing. So let's leave it with the C. The ridiculousness of professions. Let's talk about the professionals, the people who claim to know things. Psychologists, for example, study human behavior by observing people will behave differently because they're being observed. God. They write entire books explaining why humans do things humans don't actually do. And they love phrases like, tell me more about that. How does that make you feel? Let's unpack that, which is therapist for, I'm not sure what's happening, but I'm committed to the vibe. Also, to your healthcare dollars. Um, I really trip on all these words. Tell me more about that. What if I don't want to? Well, you're entitled to. You snoop. How does that make you feel? Like, well, didn't I just tell you? Well, you gave me an experience, and I just want to know how it makes you feel. Well, how would it make you feel? Buggered. Let's unpack that. Unpack what? I just got here. Okay. Neurologists. Neurologists study the brain, the most complicated object in the known universe, using machines that beep. Beep. Oh, that works. Okay. They can map your neural pathways, but they still don't know why you walked into the kitchen and forgot what you wanted. Psychiatrists. Psychiatrists just they prescribe medications, right? And they base it on supposed symptoms, patterns, and the cosmic lottery of human chemistry. Emphasis on lottery. Why? I'm going to give you a story. It's a story about how how ridiculousness is ridiculous. It has to do with government. It has to do with psychiatry, and and with the fact that the devil exists. Like I said, ridiculousness is not designed by God. It's designed by the devil. And you might say, well, some of the creation that God makes is ridiculous. No, it's creative. When God does something that you can't understand, it's probably always going to be called very creative, like, or very necessary, uh, you know, or consequence, you know. Sometimes we just don't understand what God does. Like you know, when your toe, you know, suddenly gets gangrene and it falls off, you're like, why did that have to happen, God? And it's like, does it sound ridiculous to you? Yeah, God kind of does. Well, I got my reasons. And they probably don't have to do with what you think it does. But Lord, it was my toe. No, it was my toe. I was lending it to you for a while. It was gonna fall off anyway. So yeah. Anyway, what I when I started when I became a victim of ritual abuse and of electronic harassment, when all this bad stuff started, and I became a victim of terrorism, I that's what I am. I'm a victim of terrorism and of trafficking. Um, I started going to Aspire. I'm going to shell it out, guys. I'm going to shell it out. Aspire in here in Florida is like going to San Juan Capistrano in Puerto Rico. And if you are from Puerto Rico and you know what the San Juan Capistrano is, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like trying to go to the DMV and getting your license within the span of an hour. It never happens. Okay, so no, you spend like 3 hours at the DMV every day. You got to take a whole day to go to the DMV in Puerto Rico. Here in Florida, you make an appointment, you go, you sit down for like, I don't know, 20 minutes or less. Really depends on how close you come by to the appointment, and you are immediately seen by someone. In 5 minutes, they have you taking a picture for your new ID, and you're gone. You are gone. They want you out of there. It doesn't mean that the offices aren't always full. It means that the service is quick and fast and ordered. That's it. Okay. Yes, some people still make copies of your ID from it, but Oh well. Anyway, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to tell you that when I became a victim, I went to see, a therapist because I was hearing things and it was very distracting. I wasn't able to work and I wanted to talk to somebody about what was going on with me. I knew that I was not crazy. And let me put it this way. I knew that I was not going uh through anything that a therapist could really that psychiatry could help me with. I knew that a therapist could help me through it, but not a psychiatrist, because I knew that I did not need pills. What I needed, in essence, was somebody that I could talk to about the stuff that was happening to me, who could help me cope with the experience and help me figure out how to get help and how to. But that's not what I was given. I was given a diagnosis of psychosis with depression, and a doctor, an Indian lady doctor who was about 60 years old, who every time I came into the office, I gave her the exact same symptoms. I said, no, my symptoms haven't changed. No, I'm not taking pills that you have prescribed. And she kept increasing the dose. And I kept telling her, why are you increasing the dose? I'm telling you, I'm not taking it. You don't even know if it's working. The first dose you gave me, I didn't take the pills. The second dose, I didn't take the pills. The third time, I didn't take the pills. Let me explain it to you. There's absolutely no reason why you are increasing this except for they're asking you to do a job and you're doing it so that you can keep your job. And that's stealing, guys. That's illegal. So you can't just increase the dose if first of all, you can't say I increased the dose because I hear that your symptoms are worse. But I'm telling you they're the same. Unless you think that it's a symptom that is worse, that adding a number to the pills, to the dosage is going to make me take the pill because the dose. Oh, if she hears that it's like a higher dose, she will take the pills. Is that a strategy? Is that what they teach you in med school? Is that what you paid 100,000 grand, 100 grand for? I just, I don't understand. I don't get it. Um, so yeah, they are brilliant, some, but even they will admit that the brain is basically a biological Windows operating system that's occasionally glitchy, brilliant, and frozen for no reason. Ugh. All right. Ridiculousness is having ex best friends that you no longer want to talk to, ugh, using machines on you from far, far away, using Vedic forms of out of body experiences because they think that it's going to be okay. This doesn't work on mine. It don't work. Oh man. Okay, I guess I'm gonna have to take it. Um, how are you guys doing so far? We good? We good? What about behavioral experts? Counseling. Yes, yes. That one thing that you have said, um, and that appears to work for some people. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Counseling. That one thing that appears to work for some people doesn't work for others. Um, some counselors are good counselors. Some counselors aren't good. Behavioral experts believe humans are predictable, which is adorable. Humans are not predictable. We are chaos with a credit score. And God knows that, which is why He has tried to destroy all of us at this. All of us. I am of my original creation, Lord, and I belong to me. Um, what about systems of power? I'm dealing with one right now. It's called a demon, and I'm renouncing it in the name of Yeshua. This is the fun part, okay? I was just talking about military, right? All right. The military is actually a paradox. It's highly disciplined, extremely organized, and occasionally run by people who lose their keys twice a week. It is a place where paperwork outranks logic. Acronyms, acronyms, I'm sorry, bilingual. Acronyms outrank common sense, and the chain of command outranks reality. Mental health systems. We've already talked a little bit about this one. Mental health systems are full of brilliant people, but also full of ridiculousness. They can diagnose complex disorders, but cannot diagnose why Karen is angry at Starbucks. They can treat trauma, but cannot treat the trauma caused by insurance paperwork. Religious institutions can be beautiful, profound, and healing, but they can also be ridiculous. Some institutions preach humility while building billion-dollar complexes. And some preach compassion while judging everyone. And some preach truth while ignoring facts. Now, I understand $1 million complex or $1 billion complex might serve a real purpose in the bigger scheme of religion, because maybe you have some schools there, and maybe you have your main church there, right? And your main church needs offices for your clerics and your ministers to work at. And you know what? The truth in the perspective of the Lord is that you should be working in that office 24/7. That should be your job. But some churches, and I just go back to my synagogues, because you have no idea the kind of trouble that I'm in right now, because I decided to go into a church that was open 24/7, almost a Catholic church. And I think I've got priests from that church following me around, like, spiritually. And it's not that it's a bad thing, it's that they worship things in ways that I don't, and it's become kind of a problem. And I talk to God about it every day. The Catholic Church is a place where there are people who are saintly and holy, and I don't curse those people. I don't even want to curse the priests, because that's God's job. But I have renounced the Catholic Church many times in the last years, because I've been having these issues with other churches and with spirits from other churches that come in to try to say you have to do things my way. And I say, no, I don't. It's a demon. It's a demon. um, and I've been fighting it for a really long time now. Not for the whole 7 years of my perpetration, but definitely for a lot of it. Um, and Unfortunately, I have this fight about the Virgin Mary a lot with some of these entities that I see. But in the end, I know who God is, and I know that He knows the truth. So I keep putting it on Him. Keep going back to Him and say, Lord, please, I know who you are. I know what your Torah says. And it says, you shall worship not with idols. You shall make no image for yourself to bow down to. So if there's a Virgin Mary, there is. Of course there is. I believe in her. I know that she exists. I have no questions about that. Are there many different virgins? Maybe in heaven, God consecrated many virgins, and when she went to heaven, she's a very special angel, but she doesn't need to have a statue. That's what I'm trying to say. She doesn't need it in Portugal. She doesn't need it in any place, not where there's water or where there isn't. Uh, she doesn't need a statue, period. And if you make a statue of her, don't bow down to her, you know, because you see, God has shown me that He exists in that He can exist in images. He has, like He can show us things through images. He has. But, like, for example, the snake in the pole. The snake in the pole was not something that people bowed down to. It was something that God made as an image to look at for a moment so that they could get healed. They weren't worshiping it, they weren't worshiping the snake, they weren't bowing down to it. What the instructions were, they can look at it and they'll be healed. And then what happened to this big thing, to this, there, well, some cultures call it the caduceus. And it's been used as a symbol of healing in medicine. But I want you to know that it doesn't come from Hebrews. This symbol, the caduceus, actually comes from Sumatrans or something like that. It's another a different people. And what I believe is that maybe Moses, maybe God told him, leave it there, don't do anything with it or whatever, or bury it in the sand, and somebody found it, you know, and and maybe somebody said the tale that it had healing powers, or maybe it got stolen at some point. I don't know. The thing is that somebody who looked at that thing, or the thing itself, got to those people, and that's how the caduceus eventually became a thing. Or maybe just by storytelling. That's actually a better way to explain it, by storytelling, because the Tanakh used to be told verbally before it became a book. So the Tanakh is the Pentateuch, basically. Okay, so but what I'm trying to say is that ridiculousness is universal. History, for example, history is a museum of human absurdity. We have fought wars over insults, built monuments to people we later regretted, invented machines we couldn't control, and created traditions nobody remembers the origin of. Entire civilizations collapsed because someone made a ridiculous decision. History is not a story of brilliance, it is a story of ridiculousness with occasional moments of clarity. And what about modern life? Modern life, enter the peak of absurdity. We argue with strangers online, again, buy things we don't need, Temu, follow influencers we don't like because we don't like them, and panic over notifications that don't matter. We invented self checkout machines that judge us, algorithms that stalk us, and phones that autocorrect our names into vegetables. Ridiculous. So, what do we do with all of that? Well, for now, we have to embrace it because ridiculousness is human, it's universal, inevitable, and, well, yeah, occasionally hilarious. I'm not trying to say that Satan is hilarious because ridiculousness does exist basically because we became ridiculous on the day that we said, yeah, maybe God isn't right. That was the first probable ridiculous thing that anyone ever said. Actually, before that thought, the ridiculousness of thinking, today I want to sin against God and try to make human beings God's enemies. That was probably one of the first most ridiculous thoughts there ever were. But heaven is very expansive and possibly very, very old, much older than anybody can know. You know, the earth is probably much older than 11 billion years, which is what I think we think it is. You know, it's not. It's probably a lot, a lot older than that. We only know the things that we have here on earth, you know? And when God created the lights in the heavens and all of that, he did not give a time frame, really, of how long it was, you know, from one moment to the next. A day in God's life can mean so many things, you know? For example, in the Bible, in the book of Revelations, there is a prophecy that says that the husbands of the great prostitutes are going to be of one mind for an hour. 1 hour or hour? An hour. What does an hour mean but time? You know? And maybe we have entered that hour or are entering that hour because there are a lot of people realizing, beep, that God exists, that we need him, and that if we follow him, we're going to get benefits. Some people might be doing it out of politics, but there are a lot of people out there doing it out of their heart, understanding the Bible and understanding that as humans, we really can't live without him. So, that's not a ridiculous thought at all. It is ridiculous to put politics into it. Because although God does have politics and he holds politics of the world, now the devil doesn't live here. Get out. Ugh, ugh, ugh. Well, I just have, you know, very little to say about that except for ridiculousness is sometimes hilarious, but it's because it's ridiculous. It's like, why did we do this? You know? And definitely, even if there was a ridiculous thought before the devil thought, I'm going to try to make humans fall today, I'm going to try to disobey God today in ways that I've never thought of doing before. Maybe there was another ridiculous thought before that God forgave, you know? And, maybe hell existed before Satan and other angels had fallen and they were sent to hell before. We don't know their names, but do we need to? Maybe not. you know, maybe that's the whole point. Uh, just stick to what you know. Because if you know this, that's probably all you need. And I'm talking about the Bible right now. There was absolutely no need for you to go back and forth trying to figure out if God loved you or not. Look at everything you had, you know? Look at all the the benefits that you had. One stupid tree and you went ridiculous on everyone in heaven. It's like I told you. Just don't touch it. Forget about it. You could got mangoes. You got, you got pitaya. Yeah, it wasn't called dragon fruit back then. You got all this good stuff. God loves you. Don't die. And I'm sure that maybe they were tempted before but never did it before. Maybe. But I just said I'm sure maybe, didn't I? That is ridiculous in itself, isn't it? Yeah. So, by the way, I saw a picture of Erica Kirk very recently. She's looking, she's looking great. I'm glad. Keep fighting. Just keep fighting out there. Everybody. We've all lost something along the fight, along the journey. You know, I lose every day, but there's only one thing that keeps me alive. I tell the Lord each time, I'm not leaving you. I repent and I try again and I keep trying until the last. And then when the last comes, it'll be. And that's not ridiculous, that's truth. On the other hand, ridiculousness does remind us not to take ourselves too seriously sometimes, not to worship institutions, not to fear complexity, and not to pretend we have everything figured out. I think this last one is really the most important. Don't pretend you have everything figured out. Because if you are ridiculous on a daily basis, then that means that you cannot have control of anything. Only God can. And He's the only one who's not ridiculous. And by proxy, those who are like Him are also the least ridiculous of all things, especially angels in heaven. But here, ridiculous is the great equalizer, or is thought of it. It's a proof that we are all flawed, confused, chaotic, but trying our best. And it's all in all its absurdity. It is what makes humanity worth studying, but also worth protecting, and yes, sometimes worth laughing at. I hope this post has been as enjoyable for you as it was for me. Um, I'll see you guys at Woodland Park, New Jersey, um, to do absolutely nothing uh, but but laugh at ourselves. Uh, Shalom, everyone.